All right, everybody, let's talk about this quiz. And I assume you're probably only watching this if you are looking to do the Requiz. If it went well, you're probably not tuned in here. So let's see how it goes. What is the elevation of location A, which is sitting on a depression contour? That does make it a little bit harder, but not terribly difficult. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger here. All right, our contour interval is still 10 meters, so everything on the lines goes by tens. Now that gets a little bit weird with these depressions, especially the first one. And if that was a question, I probably wouldn't have given it. This is right from our regions. If that was that region's question, I might not have given it to you. But it's like when you're coming uphill, and this was the point of doing the Topo volcano thing that you did in that plastic shoebox. If you're coming uphill out here on the ocean at sea level, it's at 0, and then we go by tens. So that line's 10, that line is 20. So over here it's 20, and that's 20, and that confuses people a little bit, but it's okay. 30, 40, 50. So if you're coming uphill, like up here, you would go up, that's 20. So you'd go above 20 on your way up. Like that'd be the high point right there. And then start dipping down back in, going past 20 again. Then the next one is going to go by 10, which is why I think this was a fair question. It really should have been just that simple, that this line's 20, and then we go down again, and it's right on the line. So it's got to be an elevation of 10 meters to do that one. What I think we should do, I'd like you to fix this right on your quiz itself, which you have is on paper, given back to you. That's going to be one of the steps we do for a redo. How about this? Fix that right on the paper. All of these, any you got wrong. And then what I'll do is another quiz that kind of looks like this as a practice to say, hey, I can do this. But you wouldn't have to, you'll only have to redo the ones you got wrong on that new sheet. Okay. Calculate the gradient between B and C and label the answer with correct units. So this was a major stumbling block for people, and you had to do it on that practice one, which is where that's like if your partner is helping you, that's great. I'm in favor of that, but you got to make sure you know what you're doing, because if you hand me a paper saying, look, I know how to do this, and then I was like, cool, I take that, here's your quiz, and you have no idea what you're doing, that's where we're going to start banging heads here. You know what I mean? Calculating gradients, and it's up there on the board, and I'll leave it up there for a couple more days. It is how much do you go up and downhill divided by how much do you go distance wise. That will determine the slope, the angle of this line, whether it's steep or gradual. Some people just gave me a distance. That doesn't tell me anything about how steep it is. The distance between those, and you would have to do that thing where you grab a piece of paper and hold it on here. Not super easy on a computer screen, but was 2.5, right? No, it was 2. Okay, so those two between B and D, I'm sorry, B and C, were 2 miles apart. Now, if you told me that, it's like you did half the problem, not even half the problem, less than half the problem. That's the distance between them. Well, great. That's part of it. That's what goes on bottom is 2. I'm sorry, I wrote miles, but it's really kilometers. 2 kilometers. Ignore that. What goes on top is how much you go up and downhill. And again, some people gave me just that, but that's not gradient. If you go up and downhill by a certain amount, say 50 feet, which isn't the right answer here, but if you go up and down by 50 feet, that'd be, maybe pretty steep if you're doing that over a very short distance. That could be like a really steep hill. It would be very flat if you're doing that between here and Rochester. If you only go up to 50 feet by that, that's a very gradual slope, right? So the up and down is really only a thing over when you consider how much distance it's over. So between B and C, how much do we go up and down? Multiple ways to figure this out. I think my method that I always liked was to say, oh, B is on the 10 line, C is on the 50 line. So if I go from an elevation of 10 over here up to an elevation of 50, by the time I get here, I went from 10 to 50, I went up by 40. And we got meters here. There were points for the label. So if you lost like maybe just 1 point on it, but the numbers are all right, it could be that your labels were either absent or incorrect. Hey, Mr. F, what's a different way to do that? If you go from B to C, and we know the contour interval is 10 meters, just count. Here, I'll switch colors just to make it look different. 10, 20, 30, 40. That works too. Still gets you the 40 meters. Punch those into a calculator. 40 over 2 is going to equal 20 meters per kilometer. Okay, points for the labels there too. And that's why I kind of bust chops about writing down your work. If you write down your work, A, you made it possible for me to give you partial credit. If your answer was incorrect and you had some work here, I'd try to find a way to squeeze you a point or two, you know? The other reason is because the label just shows up for you for free. You don't even have to think. Meters over kilometers, when you divided 40 meters over 2 kilometers, your label is meters over kilometers. Easy peasy. Okay. Number 3, how do we know that the creek flows faster between N and M, right over here, than they do between L and K, right over here? I had some people talking about the V's here, which wasn't necessary. This is more about the hill slope. Water flows faster if it's a steeper hill. And how do I know that it's a steeper hill right here? This is a critical idea because the contour lines are closer together between N and M. That's it. Let's like really seriously zoom on this. All right, going between these two, I mean, it went down. You could calculate a gradient here if you wanted to. You don't have to, but 10, 20, 30. It went down 30 feet over that little short distance. This looks like it's about the same distance, and it's not going to change by more than 10. Okay? Steep hill, because the lines are close together, therefore the water's flowing faster. And it really was. It wasn't really a water question, and that might have been what threw people off, but again, that's what the Regents is going to always like to do to you, to say, okay, we know that your teacher went through this thing with the lines being close together. Here's a weird way we're going to ask it to try to fool you. They love doing it. So you got to be foolproof. You got to know, okay, why would the water flow faster? Well, it's a steeper hill. That really is what it was at the end of the day. All right, the profile. Not going to be very easy for me to do on the computer here with the video, but what we were looking for. I'll tell you one mistake some people made is that, and I can see it a little bit, I guess, but the creek itself is not lines. So people use that line and that line. So if you dip down below 10, that's probably what you did, and that would have chopped you some points. Remember the method for making a profile is going to be to lay a piece of paper right across from D to E. So take your piece of paper, and I know you can't see this, so this is kind of bizarre, but and then make all the little tick marks and label those numbers. As I walk around seeing people do it, I see some people that just have mark, 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 and then they try to do it in their head. It's going to lead to mistakes. Label those right on your piece of paper as you do it, and then when you bring that piece of paper down here to the graph, it's a lot more dummy proof. So if I had to ballpark about what they should look like, I'm going to say the 40 was right about there. The 30 was over a pretty good stretch. And then there should have been 220s right about, and again, I'm ballparking here, right up there and there. And then it was much steeper on the other side coming back up. So that should have been all the dots. And then the line would have to start at the X. Remember, if there's a dot, you must cross the line. If there's a dot, you must cross the line. If there's a dot, you must cross the line and come down. I had a couple still give me this totally flat bottom. Don't do it. It's a river valley down there. You'll always cross the line. Then we got more dots. Cross the line, cross the line, cross the line. Done. It's about right. Mine on this side maybe was a little bit steeper than my computer version here, but hey, I'm eyeballing it. That's about what it should look like. If that methodology is tough, there's again a whole video to explain it, or come see me and we'll work through a couple of them. But there's no way that the next quiz is going to have both a gradient and a profile. I guarantee it. Those are the minimum, and probably other things that are really similar to these other questions. If you can't do it, you're not going to pass the next quiz either. So let's figure it out. What evidence is shown by the contour lines to indicate the direction the stream or river flows? This one was actually added by me. You can tell the font's a little different. These were actual Regents questions, and I chucked this one in at the end. The idea is with these V's, you can answer this the same way every time, and you can do it with 3 words. And if you just jam these 3 words in your brain and lock them up there, you're going to do it. How do I know which way that river's flowing? V's point upstream. Those 3 words, and I'm going to make that a bigger font. V's point upstream, and V's we can count that. That answer's 100% legitimate on the Regents. V's point upstream. Okay, you tell me that, we're good. And I mean, really, the key to it then is that water flows downstream, but you really can get away with just that. All 6 words would be fantastic, but give me this at an absolute minimum. Okay, so if I zoom in on this map, these V's point the uphill upstream direction and the water flows downstream. So this little, it didn't matter if you said north, south, east, west or this. That wasn't what I was asking. I was just asking, how could you tell which way the stream was flowing? V's points upstream. Yeah. All right. So again, just in case you missed what we're going to do here, I want the questions you got wrong fixed on your little piece of paper after you watch this video. And then you can say, Mr. F, I'm ready to try the qualifier for the retests, which I'm going to make right now. And if you can do that and show me that, hey, I can do a profile, I can do a gradient, and you got both pieces of paper, don't lose your quiz. I want to see that to see like what you did wrong. We'll compare it to the new sheets. We'll try to make sure we're on the right page, and then we'll do the requiz. Okay. So it is a couple steps, but we gotta get this down. This is on, one of these things is on almost every Regents. Not every, but almost every. Okay. Cool. Thanks for watching. Good luck on the requiz.